You're watching It's Life Live with your hosts, Juan Lee and Oliver Marcel. Come join us for enriching, enlightening, encouraging, and thought-provoking conversation. Let's go.
Hello, everybody. How you doing, Oliver?
I am well, man. How are you?
I'm doing just great.
We're back for another one.
Hey, and another one I can't wait to come back to. This is great. This is really great. Hey, let's do some housekeeping real quick. My name is Juan Lee, and I am an author and a speaker and the founder of Clear Journey, which is the sponsor of It's Life Live. And we are here every Wednesday night at 7 o'clock. Clear Journey is a nonprofit organization that supports individuals and families that are looking for answers in life. No matter what area of life, we want to educate and give you resources so that you can live your very best life. All righty, Oliver, tell them about you.
I am passionate about all things relationships. And so if you are looking to build, to maintain a phenomenal, I say it this way, the relationship of your dreams, I am the guy who can help do that. Author, speaker, and coach in the relationship building space and the men's enrichment space, author of the book, Overcoming the Man Laws. And it's just my goal to share my journey in hopes that it will be an encouragement to you.
Well, all right. Yes. He is one of those strategic partners that we talk about in providing resources. That if you have one of the areas that Clear Journey has is about relationships, all type of relationships, not only just, relationships, marital relationships, but relationships across the board. So if that's something that you need, by all means, reach out to Oliver. If you have not subscribed to our website, that's Clear Journey, or our YouTube channel, that's clearjourney.org. We want to give opportunity to please go support us and hit that like button and subscribe. We're here every Wednesday just for you. And tonight, we are going to be just like last week, as a matter of fact. We were following up on our Harmony at Home webinar. And Oliver basically was one of the panelists on that webinar. And he continued to drop some additional info as it relates to the significance of something that he said at the webinar. And it was great stuff. It was really great stuff. I felt good about hearing it. I was like, yeah, I'm going to. Intentionality in our relationships, man, and taking opportunities to make sure that we're being intentional in those relationships and doing some things that don't appear to be small, but at the end of the day, they're really big.
Yep. Pack a powerful punch. Yep.
Yeah. And tonight we're going to do something similar to that, but we have them as a guest. I was able to record something from one of our panelists from at the webinar last week, or a couple weeks ago now, and we're going to let him add some additional value to us also. So with that, we looked at it and we said, hey, everybody didn't get a chance to share everything that they wanted to share. And it was like, dog, how can we give them an opportunity to continue to share? And so hopefully within the next couple of weeks, we might have also Dr. Myers that might come on and add some additional things that she wanted to share also. And so we're looking forward to that. I tell you, I can't wait until our next webinar already. Our next webinar, we're going to be having webinars every quarter. They're going to, starting in the new year, we're going to be having one first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter of every year. And we're going to be having that type of, hopefully those types of guests and panelists that can really begin to shape people's lives in a way that they can prepare for their journey, whether it's, wherever you are in life, whether you're a teenager, you're a young adult. And here's the thing, a lot of us don't realize that um, how we navigate our lives influence and affects other people.
Without a doubt.
And
That's crucial.
yeah, and so, it's at any level that we can gain additional value or get some insight to something, it not only helps ourselves, but it helps those that are around us.
Yeah. And we should be we should be we should be cognizant of that. We should be more intentional about being cognizant of that, right? Often we are exposed to ideologies that cause us to believe that it's all about us. And while, yes, we should be concerned about our well being and we should be looking to move the needle in certain areas in our life, we also should be looking at the overall big picture. How am I contributing to humanity? How is what I am building up for myself? How does that contribute to humanity? How does that leave legacy for my family? How does that now influence generations that come behind me?
Yeah. And that was really the genesis behind the Harmony at Home
Mm-hmm.
webinar.
Yep.
Was that it would often ultimately, you know, build the family unit in a better, so that we can be stronger as a family. I think I was talking to someone today, and we were just talking about the value of that connection in the home,
Mm-hmm.
and how much it means, because it's our very first connection of being able to find ourselves and identify the things that are important to us,
Mm-hmm.
and then find those resources that can support us as we continue to develop and grow. And so that family foundation is essential to just setting the perspective as it relates to how we would look for future connections going forward, because everybody, we don't always have all of our connections in our home, but at least gives us to the ideas to what we're looking for,
Mm-hmm.
so that's what the Harmony at Home was all about. And so I don't know if you have anything else you want to put in here. If not, we're going to let the
Yeah,
Marcus Vilme have the floor, and
let's
then
do it.
we're gonna come back after that. And hey, anybody that's here, if you're listening to this, by all means, still put in some questions or comments in the chat. We're gonna be here, so we look forward to interacting with you in the chat. So here we go.
Here we go. Let's bring them on.
Hello, everybody. This is Juan Lee again from Clear Journey, and we had a wonderful time at the Harmony at Home webinar. And it was so good that we wanted to add some extra to it. And what we're going to do is, as you can see, we have with us one of the panelists that was at the webinar on that night, and we want to give him a chance and opportunity to share and to add some additional value. So with that being said, here's Marcus Vilme, and let him introduce himself to you. And we're going to go with some of the things that he didn't get a chance to share with us on the night of the webinar. Thanks for coming out, Marcus.
Thank you, Juan, for just adding me back into the conversation. It was a great webinar. Hello, everyone. My name is Marcus Vilme. I am the founder and owner of Ant Mentalities, which is a wellness mindset-based business, helping individuals shift their mentality away from a survival mindset so that they feel confident to fight every day towards a peaceful, enlightened future. I am also the owner of Coup Medium, which is a marketing agency, um, and I'll go into that. I just want to keep it just bare. Just it's a marketing agency that's helping us aspiring creatives create a digital footprint, just so that they feel confident with bringing their vision to life. in the digital landscape. So I'll go more into that later. I just want to sprinkle that in, but thank you for having me again, Juan. It's such a pleasure.
Hey, I appreciate you, man. I really do appreciate you. You got energy that I wish I had. Hey, hey. So let's get back and pick up on what we were talking about, and it was basically about the harmony at home, and it was having to do with relationships and building a bond
Right.
with just helping us to establish a better relationships at home. Um, and one of the things that I thought was very interesting was the ability about how limiting beliefs impact our ability to be able to have these better relationships at home. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah. I first start with like the limiting beliefs piece. I think that's something I didn't recognize was a huge thing in my life or anyone's life until I became a life coach back in November 2019. And I've been wanting to be a life coach for quite some time, but once I was learning these certain pieces of terminology, I was able to now put a lot of things together. Now, what limiting beliefs are, just so you as the audience know, is it is a belief that may hold you back from getting you to where you need to be, or it may be a trigger point which stops you from feeling more encouraged to pursue whatever that may be. So when we're talking about family and the bonds and whatnot, a lot of the limiting beliefs stem from when you were younger, when you were growing up, and kind of the different things that you were seeing in your environment and in your family. So I know for myself, and I can speak and be open about this, one limiting belief that I did have while I was younger, which I then have been able to heal now as an adult, is not really having the confidence to voice my own opinion around others or older folk. And what I mean by that is, as a kid and also raised in a Caribbean household as Haitian descent, the adults were seen as the all knowing, in my point of view. They were seen as those that they had all the information. And even though I was learning so much as a kid, I was reading and all that stuff, and I wanted to be included in all these conversations that piqued my interest amongst the adults. It was always a point of to have me pushed to the side as a kid, so, or to be pushed off into a corner or not be around the adults as they speak about grown-up things per se. And I know that's a common phrase that many people know about. Just you're not supposed to be around grown folk. You know what I'm saying? So that limiting belief then turned into me not wanting to have a voice on topics that I feel like I'm knowledgeable about or can contribute to. And it was tough from going as a kid leading up into as an adult. I recognized that there were many moments that I would be in the midst of a conversation or be surrounded by individuals that having a very intellectual, robust, and highly in-depth conversation about topics that I'm interested in, but I wouldn't feel as though that my voice needed to be heard or I needed to share my opinion just because I wasn't invited into the conversation. Now, there as you see, there's a whole link from me as a kid and now me as an adult, and I didn't really have that voice to want to speak. Even though I was in theater, I was in acting, I was able to be expressive in front of the scene. But behind the scenes, I was like, maybe I should hold my voice. Maybe I should not speak about my opinion. Maybe I should not share. Um, it was rough to be able to come into that place because limiting beliefs really kind of stop your own growth. And it stopped my growth because as I started to share more, say, college and leading out of college, the more people were like, oh, whatever you're saying in your opinion, I really want to know what else you have left. I really want to hear what else, what other perspective you have because I didn't take that into consideration. And so it's crazy how going from a kid and going to an adult, that this is like a very streamlined process of consistency that doesn't really get pointed out until there is some introspection that's done. There is a little bit of reflection done of like, how come I feel a little uneasy in moments where I know that this is an engaging conversation, but I don't feel like I can invite myself in. Why am I stopping myself? And so those moments that you're stopping yourself are defined as those limiting beliefs. Even though I gave this one example, there have been so many times I've been in those same exact spots where I'm like, Marcus, you know you can provide value. You know that what your perspective is can be said and people can hear it and people can, gravitate towards it and want to share something else. But there always was that underlying limiting factor of, as a kid, my voice was silenced. So I didn't feel confident enough because there wasn't an adult to invite me in. I had to learn how to invite myself into those conversations, not only respectable, but with enough umph and enough poise that I'm also going to get the same respect from an adult to a little kid and as an adult myself.
I want to interject in here because I think that is not very uncommon.
Yeah.
Okay. And for that reason, it was very interesting because what you just shared was something that was evident when I wrote my book, Love Made Simple. Because at the end of each chapter, I break it down into various categories of stages of life.
Mm-hmm.
And those stages of life, they are meant to prepare you for the next stage. And it starts in as a teenager,
Mm-hmm.
a young adult, an adult, and then senior.
Okay.
And all of those are meant to prepare you for the next one. You're a teenager, and what happens that I've understood and when I've come to understand is that we don't, as adults, are not preparing our children, our teenagers, to be adults.
Right.
And as a result, it affects their ability to make that transition to the next phase or to the next stage. Because it's like you were saying, it's like you had something to say, but didn't know you had a place to say it. Because they're really quick to tell you, you don't have a nickel in this conversation. Okay. It's
Right.
a dime conversation. They got a nickel. The other person got a nickel. Ain't no change, and you can't get in the conversation. But
Point
the
exactly.
whole intent should be to bring us up to that level of conversation and to prevent that limiting belief
Mm-hmm.
that you have a voice, and to articulate and to be able to express that as you get older.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you really articulated very well why I put that in the book, because we do not do that.
Yeah.
And as a result, the long-term ramifications are we feel inadequate. We
Yes.
begin to build up these limited beliefs that came out of reality, to be honest with you,
Mm-hmm.
out of things that we really experienced, and unfortunately end up carrying them into our lives, which in this case then turns around and impacts our ability to be able to be a viable resource in our own families.
Point exactly. Yeah.
Just wanted to throw that in there.
That's such a really good point, and I think it's, as with the younger generation, I feel like it's really difficult to know that's what things may be, because I'm just thinking about in the sense of being in college, being in high school, in those moments where I was more open to sharing my thoughts because I think I got a leg up with understanding that no, I have value within the classroom, I have value in these certain settings, but what doesn't, as I said, gets talked about is those moments where there are students, there are teenagers that are silent within the class. They don't raise their hand and that have that sense of participation. They may be those individuals that feel like those limiting beliefs of they can't have a voice that was present in the household now transitions inside the school, and they don't feel like they have a voice inside the school. In their friend group, they don't want to contribute because they feel that same way, because they may not feel, may not be directly invited by a person to speak or say, hey, what's your opinion, so and so, where they're just like, oh, I'm just going to sit and listen even though I have 1,000 thoughts. So I think it's a real conversation does need to be had, not only amongst teenagers but going into adulthood, where a lot of adults are still living as teenagers in terms of that mindset, because they still haven't unpacked what was the source of how I am right now and how I'm navigating life right now, because there is a way to improve, but they may not just be fully aware and have that level of introspection to get there and say like, I can
Yeah.
actually move forward.
Well, then that's being. With that being said, what are some things that people can do to shift this mentality that they're having, that's really doing the limiting beliefs? What are some tricks, the things that you can think of that can help people through that?
That's a great segue question. Personally, what has really helped me the most is being able to find other individuals who are similar. Where I understand, like going to therapy and understand a lot of therapy type of terms, or to say terminology, where you go into trauma bonding, where someone's trauma is also linked with your trauma, and it could be a trigger, and then all of a sudden you all have a relationship, and not necessarily an intimate relationship, but more so you have a connection where it's like, oh, I had a similar experience, you had a similar experience, great, that's nice. What can happen is there could be some enabling of that where you not only may not want to speak, if we want to stay on the topic of just having a voice, you may not want to speak your opinion, the other person may not want to speak in their opinion. You're now at a stalemate, like if it was in the West, and it's like, okay, who's going to speak first, who's going to go first? So for me, what I've come to find, just in hindsight of being able to unpack what these limiting beliefs are, is in moments that you feel distressed, in moments that you feel bothered, on moments that you feel uneasy, in moments that you feel like, why didn't I? Those are moments that your limiting belief are popping up as an alert system, as a huge red flag. And it's not a red flag that's bad, it's a red flag to take notice and to be mindful of it. And in order to process that, I usually like to either do a voice memo, to just vent out what I'm saying or what I'm thinking. I like to journal, be it a written form, or I would go to someone who I value their thought process, or am able to vent to, where they're able to provide me a perspective of not just affirmation, because sometimes affirmations go in a way where you're affirming what someone's belief is, which is okay, but it may just be a continual affirmation, which is just a cycle that could actually turn negative, rather than someone being able to check you or to redirect your own thinking or make you see a different point of view or perspective that can heal or help heal what has happened. So conversations with others who you value their opinion, being able to journal, be it through voice memo, through journaling. Um, the other thing that I think is not something that's talked about often is being comfortable with sitting in your own solitude. Um, that is something that I encourage all of my people, all of my friends, all of my clients, no matter who I'm coaching and interacting with. I constantly preach and say you have to protect your peace, and you also have to understand what your peace is. And in order to do that, you need to learn more about yourself. You need to know about the different parts of yourself, but you also need to learn about how you exist within different spaces and different pockets. Because the way you exist by yourself is going to be different when you exist in a crowd. It's going to be different when you exist with one person. It's going to be existed when you exist with when you're present with a stranger compared to someone you know, compared to someone that you love. It's all going to be different no matter the circumstance. But at the root of it all, you have to take time to understand yourself and be alone, because it's okay, because that is a process that people have to go to in order people have to go through in order to understand a little bit more about their own mechanisms on how they think, how they process, and then how they move forward and take action.
Hey, that is absolutely 100% on. I mean, you've basically been running down my love attitudes, because these are things that we often look over, but we want to get into other things. But this is not about me. This is about you, and I want you to, in the little time we have left, I want you to tell people how they can get in touch with you, because I think
Absolutely.
you've got plenty to share.
Absolutely. Well, one big way that people can follow me is on Instagram. I have now 3 pages. The first Instagram is Guru Ku. That's GURU_CU. I dedicate that page more so to kind of the wellness health side of me, or just the real side of me. So you're able to see a lot of posts that deal with perspectives and what I've gone through basically in the fitness and health and wellness realm, but also in just daily life. I also post content on cooking, which is the nutritional side of things, but I enjoy cooking not only as a creative side to myself, but I also understand it's a way to create community because people like seeing things being created through food. Like food is a community type of ordeal, you know what I mean? So I post food videos. I'm also posting a lot of animations, and the animation side of things is very new, more on the voiceover side. That leads me to the second business that I have is Cool Medium on Instagram. So that's CU underscore medium, MEDIUM. And in there, I'm basically posting content of voiceovers, website creation, um, content creation, what that looks like, how my process is, and if you are open to having that service of your website being done, being taught how to use certain apps like a CapCut, a Canva, a Squarespace, a Shopify. I'm going to be posting services on teaching you what that looks like and even creating a community where I'll pose challenges for voiceovers where, hey, there's an anime or there's an image or there's a video that I want to be posting. If you are interested in doing a voiceover for this, do the voiceover, send it to me, I'll edit it and so forth, and it'll create a community voiceover type of group where people can see this different voices from whomever that may be and not even know who the person is, but I'm doing my best to create a realm that pushes more aspiring creatives to be in those spaces and know that they are far more worth it. And the last page that people can follow me at is my health and wellness or my wellness mindset based business called Ant Mentalities, also on Instagram. That is A period, M period, P period, Mentalities, Ant Mentalities. And that's all health, wellness, and nutrition type of information there. So personal training, online training, events will be coming soon, and any type of services. So I have a lot to offer and a lot to share. But my biggest thing is I've only been able to do this because I've been looking at my inner child, seeing what brings me joy, what finds me joy, and being able to offer into different spaces like this.
Well, I want to thank you because I think we want to be able to help you be able to share those gifts and talents with others, and that's one of the things that we do here at Clear Journey is to be resource for those to connect those connections. So we're going to help you become and to reach out to others so that they can be their best, because ultimately all this is about people reaching their full potential.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
so I want to thank you for again coming out and sharing with us your expertise, and we look forward to seeing and hearing from you again in the future, so don't go too far away.
I got you.
And I thank you very much. And we are going to then throw this back to the live broadcast because this was recorded. All righty. Thanks. We talk to you later.
All righty.
Good stuff. Good stuff. I think you're muted, Warren.
Yep. 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 I want to say beforehand, Cameron, thank you. I don't know why I cannot thank you for coming in, Cameron. He said, Oliver, you're gonna say something, Oliver.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
but
I'm here. I responded to Cameron in the comments, and Dr. Tina was in the comments as well. So thank you for you both for being in there. I didn't
I
see Dr. Tina's comment come up, but I saw it when I went on to my LinkedIn. So
I could not, I for some reason my LinkedIn didn't, because I responded and they let you respond one time for all the platforms.
mm-hmm.
And for whatever reason, LinkedIn didn't pop up. And I'm surprised because it's live, but it didn't allow me to connect. So I'm assuming that I have to go to LinkedIn directly and respond.
Yes, yeah. That yeah, LinkedIn is funny with these third party streaming platforms, but it's
Yeah.
all good. It's all good. We're glad that you guys are here for that. Got to hear what Marcus had to say, which again, just to reiterate, was just a spinoff, if you will, of the webinar, um, Harmony at Home webinar that happened a couple weeks back, which was a phenomenal webinar where I also got to be a panelist on that webinar as well. And so you got to hear Marcus share some more information, which was great.
Yeah. And I like to pick up on it because I think the limiting belief is something that we all, to a certain degree, suffer from as it relates to just in the fact of how we grew up, where we come from. And it impacts us in so many ways, and yet we don't recognize them.
Hmm.
We don't recognize them. Um, and I just think back into my situation, and they can be projected onto you, limited beliefs. And
It
I
can
think,
be.
yeah, that's the thing, that in many cases we don't recognize them, because we just don't. I give you an example where I grew up, in Virginia. It was considered, quote unquote. Now, granted, I was growing up in the 70s, early 70s, as a young, adolescent. And it was like we were considered living in the ghetto, so to speak.
Hmm.
And yet we all, for the most part, we live single family homes. Everybody owned their own home. They were row houses, brick row houses.
Hmm.
And it was something about how we kept the community. We didn't just because somebody thought we were something that we weren't.
Hmm.
It was easy because it was being projected on us. But yet we had to fight to get past that, to allow, to work past the fact that, hey, that wasn't who I was. And the fact is that even though we lived in what they considered the ghetto, it
Hmm.
wasn't something that we deemed as the ghetto,
Right.
because it's not about where you lived, it's about how you carry, or how you preserve, how you handle, how you how you live.
Hmm.
And I think the mindset is what we were really fighting against, and making sure that, you know, nobody can make us be somebody that we weren't, that we were not.
Yeah.
And we had community. We had something we talked about before. We had a parents club, and it was like a little community that everybody was in it together. But if you were to talk about, because this was right around the time of busing, and it was like they were taking the younger children and busing them to the other part of the city,
Hmm.
whereas the older kids were staying right there. But it was like, wow, it was a whole big transition thing. And it was like we weren't supposed to be what they were,
Hmm.
but they were, better than we were, so to speak.
Right.
And that was something that we had to fight through.
Yeah, I would dare say, and I won't put all my chips out on the table, but I would dare say that the majority, if not all, of the limiting beliefs that we adopt come from outside sources. Now, there are some that maybe come from experience, and we may experience something and we're gun shy about it at that point. And so it limits how we do it. But I would dare say many of them, just like Marcus talked about growing up in a Haitian household, and how family of origin kind of plays into that, how you were raised a certain way. I can definitely identify with that. I can identify with that because in Caribbean households, I know everybody who's my age or older, or maybe even younger, depending on where you grew up, has heard the phrase children should be seen and not heard. If you grew up in the South, you probably heard that as well. Children should be seen and not heard. And then so some people then grow up, like Marcus said, like, hey, I don't, really apprehensive about contributing because I wasn't supposed to, right? So I think a lot of those things come from how we were raised. Sometimes they come from, and you said that you talked about the ghetto and it being projected onto you, right? Sometimes that is also done. Parents have a fear about something, or there's something that they did or experienced on their journey of life that did not go a certain way. And so they automatically are like, hey, don't do that. based on whatever the fear is, or based on whatever the apprehension is, or the or how they chose to address the failure or the disappointment. So a lot of that is birthed out of some things that we didn't necessarily take on, but was handed to us.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Yeah.
Cameras in the comments. Camera said habitual ways of thinking, seeing and interpreting things, and then acting those things out becomes a personality. When groups of people think and act in similar ways, those habits become a culture. Those things can be good, bad, or neutral. Indeed, 100%,
Yeah. Yeah.
100%. I agree with that.
It's just, I guess, how do we, as it relates to being able to navigate that, because ultimately that's what we're trying to do,
Hmm.
is to navigate all of those types of influences,
Right.
and not let them limit us in what our potential is.
Hmm.
And so, it's like, okay, identifying those things and then saying, okay, how do I navigate them? What do I do to minimize those impacts that are negative,
Hmm.
and then also um, glean from those that are positive?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The tough thing is that you don't always recognize that it is a limiting belief until you find yourself in a scenario where you feel limited. The I think that the danger is that there are many people who don't ever find themselves in a scenario where they feel limited, so they just, like Cameron said, that becomes the culture. That becomes the culture of the family. That becomes the culture of the neighborhood. Because they don't ever get out of that scenario or find themselves in a place where they get stretched enough to realize, wait a minute, I don't something about how I thought about this isn't right.
Well, I mean, and really that goes back to a really fundamental thing about the family, though. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
If we don't recognize the value of the family, and this really speaks to harmony at home
Mm-hmm.
and the value of the family, because that's where your curiosity is going to be bred as it pertains to your desire to want to grow and to expand.
Mm.
And it's because of those things that you don't get exposed to that ability to want to grow,
Mm-hmm.
um is is the thing that prevents or limits our beliefs,
Yeah.
because we don't know that there's something outside of what
Yeah.
we've been exposed to,
That's true.
you
And
know.
that's true. And I think it behooves us. And here's what I love about what Clear Journey is doing. Sometimes you got to go into that environment and show them, because they may never come out. I'll give you a great example. I went to school. I'm from Maryland, born and raised in Maryland, but I went to school in Southwest Michigan, small town, and it's surrounded by a ton of small towns, right? So one of the towns that is close to where I went to school, I worked in that town. I worked at the health department. I worked at some different places in that town. That town is so small, and all of these towns were like that. The town I lived in as well, that the town only had one high school, had several elementary schools because there was a lot of kids being born, a few middle schools, one high school. The kids that I worked with in that high school, some of those kids had never left their neighborhood. And I lived in Southwest Michigan, but I lived about 25 miles or so from Notre Dame, which was in South Bend, Indiana, which is it's not a huge city, but it's a bigger metropolis. It's
Mhm.
malls, stores, restaurants, all that stuff out there. There were some kids that had never been 25 miles away to Notre Dame. And there are people who to this day were born and the town has some famous people. Sinbad is from this town. Uh Ernie, the actor. Uh I forgot his name, Ernie something. He's from that town. So there's a few people um, that are from that town that have come out of that town. But generally, there are people who never leave that town. They go to elementary school, to middle school, they graduate from the high school, and they work in that town. And so you got to go into those folk because they now have a belief system that is crafted in the culture.
Yeah, and I mean, but again, these are yeah, this is what Clear Journey wants to do. Um, but it's more so wanting adults and family members to understand that everybody has a role in the development of the family, has a role in the family. And every child has some guardians. And one of the things that guardians have a task or responsibility to do is to give them that thirst and hunger to
Mhm.
want to grow.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that's where the ball is dropped, because it doesn't matter really if you don't go to one school. Everybody goes to one school. I mean, you talk about my dad. My dad, all the grades went to one school, one building.
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
you you
Yep.
talking about
My
three
dad too.
schools? He had all the grades in one building. You
Mm-hmm.
know, you start first grade and you was the graduating class
The
was two
same.
when they was in the same room we was in.
Right. Yep.
You know,
Yep.
so what I'm saying is it's that thirst and hunger
Mm-hmm.
that we've got to instill in our youth, and in some cases we got to get it.
Yeah.
You know, and what happens is in many cases we've allowed life, it's life,
Mm-hmm.
to rob us of that thrill of wanting to grow.
How do you break that though? Because like I think about that same town, right? And I can't even fault the parents or the guardians who don't instill that because it wasn't instilled in them, right? So think about if you go let's go we can go back many generations, right? And there's a grandparent who grew up there and lived there and died there and was like, this is what life is. They pass that on to the child. The child is like, okay, this is what life is. Nothing is outside of this space. And this is all it's going to be. And they continue to pass that down. So how do you break? Because they're not even doing that in a malicious way or in they're not aiming out to destroy
Yeah,
legacy at
yeah,
all. It's just
yeah,
all they know.
yeah. And this really speaks to the core element of what Clear Journey is all about. It really goes back to my book Love Made Simple, the guide to inner
Mm.
peace,
Hmm.
contentment, and success.
Let's throw that up
Because
on the screen.
because purpose drives any type of outcome. And purpose is something that everybody should understand, that's about life.
Hmm.
And it's about how do we preserve and protect humanity for the next generation.
Yeah.
See, if that's the mindset that we give, because see, we look at the circumstances and let it dictate how we view life,
Hmm.
instead of us going into life knowing how we should engage it, how what we should be doing for it or in it.
Yeah.
And so when we know that we have a purpose, and that purpose is greater than just my personal experience, I have a part that's something that's bigger than
Hmm.
just what we see in our community or in our home or in our family. It connects to something bigger than us.
Yeah.
And
And
that's the message.
yeah. And I love that too because and what needs to happen, right, is that individuals who recognize that should also recognize they have a responsibility to pass that on, right? Because I'll use that same place as an example. This university that I went to is 10 minutes from this town. The university that, and I'm not speaking bad about anybody, not about the university or anything, but I'm just giving you what the scales look like.
Mm-hmm.
That university is the, I don't know if it's still number one, but for a very long time, maybe until recently, it still might be the number one diverse university in the country. Number one,
Mm-hmm.
with 80 plus countries represented in the student body. And it's not 10,000 students there. It's a smaller university, extremely diverse, has one of there's a denomination that has their main seminary there. There's wonderful programs that come out of there. So you got people that are coming out of there with experience, you got faculty, you got staff. You would think that the ripple effect would be such that you could begin to reverse some of that mentality. You got Notre Dame, that's 25 miles away, humongous university, right? So same thing. And I feel like sometimes what happens is we garner what we need to garner and we dash, or we hold it in for our own benefit, as opposed to looking at what you said, the bigger picture. How is this helping humanity? Who can I reach back and help and encourage and inspire based on what I've learned?
Yeah, but see, and that's a fundamental thing that if we don't ever get it, see, if we never make it to Notre Dame, or if we
Mm-hmm.
never make it to those other institutions or those places of higher, see,
Mm-hmm.
I got value.
Mm-hmm.
I have value, and if I haven't been taught that I have value,
Mm-hmm.
or I've learned that I have value, I'm looking to get it from somebody else.
Yeah, true. True. We got Cameron in the comments. Uncovering limiting beliefs like growing means we have to ask questions about everything, including ourselves. Why does this bother me and that doesn't? But that is a frightening and uncomfortable explorations. Yes, those are frightening and uncomfortable explorations. And from families to friends, from schools to governments, we are discouraged from asking uncomfortable questions.
And and
Mm.
and and guess what? There's no easy answers. There's no, I mean, we've got to, one of the greater things that we talk about or that I share about is getting over the fear of loss. See, those asking those questions that he was referring to
Hmm.
is because of what someone else is thinking about those questions and doing the work that it's going to entail to get those answers.
Yeah.
And that's unfortunate because we all have to get past that. We really do. And in spite of the fact that our we're not people, our society doesn't promote it. It's almost like you said, I got mine, you're gonna have to
Hmm.
figure it out too. And
Hmm.
that's the point that I'm trying to get at,
Right.
is that if we can rally around the fact that there is purpose in this experience, and it's not uncommon to any one of us. All of us has the same purpose. We just demonstrate it a little bit differently.
Hmm.
I have different gifts and talents than you do, and so, but we all have the same purpose. And we've been running around thinking that I've got to find a new purpose.
Hmm.
But once we realize that here, I have the same purpose as you got, and that is to protect and preserve humanity for the next generation so that we can continue to invest into the future.
Yeah.
We have a temporary assignment that's the same for everybody. And when we have that knowledge, then how we do it is one thing, but that we do it is everything.
Hmm.
We've
Yeah.
got to have that.
Got to. And listen, I love, this is not a shameless plug. This is a very timely plug. I love that Clear Journey is shining a light on that, because that's where we're going to begin to see the needle moved, when we can uncover those beliefs by asking those questions that will cause us to be reflective, and then ultimately make the adjustments that allow us to be able to grow, and then taking that and recognizing we now have a responsibility. I'm going to use that word, a responsibility now to assist somebody else through that process by answering their questions or giving them uh, the truth that allows them to believe it's okay to ask those questions. And that's good. Cameron has another comment.
Yeah,
Do we want to know the truth or do we want to be right? Too many people attach their sense of self worth to being right. We would all be better off if we divorce our sense of self worth from whether or not we know everything and at any given point. Yeah.
I agree 100%.
Cameron is knocking out the park with the comments. Yeah,
I
100%.
100%.
Agree.
Uh, I mean, what comes to mind when Cameron says that is the fact that, again, everything that I speak on stems from my understanding of my development of love,
Hmm.
and the ability to understand what he just said has that sacrificial type of mentality.
Hmm.
And that means that it's not about who's right, it's about what's right.
Hmm.
And for us to be able to demonstrate that in our interactions with one another, it has to be relayed to one another that, I don't have an ego in this, I don't have anything in it other than that we can make this a better place,
Right.
and that we all win. And it's not about me against you, but it's us together being successful. And that is how we project what the future will look like, because we will be laying the foundation of togetherness for the future.
Mhm. I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
And I think
I
it takes us down the road to, taking the limits off of our beliefs. It's a cycle, if you will, right? Because you believe that belief could be limiting you. That limitation feeds into activity that just uh, further solidifies your belief,
mhm.
which keeps you in that cycle, right? So if
Yeah,
we can take the limits off of that by doing, what you've talked about and what Cameron was talking about in the comments, now allows for that cycle to be reversed. It's still a cycle. It's just can we get it moving in the opposite direction?
absolutely. Because every one of us now makes a added value to someone else when we now reach our personal potential.
Hmm. Hmm.
And to be able to take those handcuffs off, or those limiting beliefs off, gives us the opportunity to reach our full potential,
Yeah.
which then impacts someone else's ability to reach their full potential. Hey, this
Good
has been
stuff.
good.
Yeah.
Cameron, I
Good stuff.
really appreciate you in the comments. I really do.
Indeed.
Thank you for sharing. Um, and again, this is what this is all about, is sharing and really giving ourselves, or giving, really ourselves to one another, and being unapologetically who we are, and understanding that why we do what we do here at Clear Journey
Hmm.
is so that we all can be better. We all, and we need one another. And that's the other thing. We need each other. I can't be my best without you, Oliver,
Hmm.
and so on. And so I appreciate the things that Cameron added to our conversation. And I hope to look forward to you coming back again. I really enjoyed you being here tonight. Oliver, let people know how they can reach you and get in touch with you.
Indeed. So if you are a social media person, right next to my name on the screen is the social media handle. You can find me everywhere on social media by using that handle. If you are an email person, you can simply email me. And my email address is on the screen as well. I'm an author, speaker, and coach in the relationship building and men's enrichment spaces. Just passionate about seeing people communicate on an extraordinary level, recognize, manage, and recover from conflict in record time. And on the personal side, build a strong, intimate bond. On the professional side, build synergy and create teams that are oozing with productivity because they are able to get it right in the relationship building area. I would love to have a conversation with you. Connect with me.
All righty. And again, he's a strategic partner. So whenever you connect with him, you connect with us. We are all here together. Also, if you want to learn more about Clear Journey, go to clearjourney.org. We have all of the areas in which we support each other or others in. And it also you can see some of our other broadcasts and things that we have, because we have It's Life podcast, and then we have It's Life Live. So you can go there and you can see some of those. And by all means, subscribe to our Facebook page, subscribe to our YouTube channel. And you can reach me if you'd like to reach out to me, at info@clearjourney.org. And I would love to have some time to speak with you. We are going to be rolling out our webinars that we will be having next year, by the next couple weeks. So be on the lookout for that. We will be taking one of those 7 areas or those 8 areas, and we will have webinars every quarter in the new year. So look out for that. We look forward to that. And if you need anything, because what we want to do is be your resource for life. Okay. So if you need anything, come see us, and we will at least be able to help you, direct you in the way that can get you to the place that you're looking for. So with that being said, we appreciate you for being with us tonight. And as always, we can't change life, but we can surely help you navigate it a little bit better. Until next time, we'll see you then.
Later.